Welcome back to Viewpoint. Now we're going to speak to professionals who help GibSams about the impact the ongoing pandemic is having on our mental health and what workplaces and we as individuals can do to keep well. Good evening to Kerstin and also to Rene Beguelin. Maybe you can start off by telling us a little bit, for anyone who doesn't know you, about your backgrounds and the work that you do in this area of mental health and well-being. If you'd like to go first, Kerstin.
Yeah, sure, thank you. So I'm a professional coach. I work with businesses and I support them to get the best out of their people. And that's really based on the understanding that our ability to achieve and to perform great results is directly related to our well-being. And vice versa. Our well-being is also directly related to how well we do, our purpose, our achievements.
So if you feel well, you're more likely to do well at work, and if you do well at work, you're more likely to feel well.
Absolutely. So there's a lot around purpose there. And so I support businesses and I work with individuals, whether that's executives, leaders, managers, down to the junior people, and to really help them to have positive challenges, positive goals, objectives, and to meet them equally with support so that they can thrive, because if the people thrive, the business will thrive as well.
Sure. Dr. Beguelin, you're not new to many of our viewers, I'm sure, but just refresh us a little bit on the work that you do in this area of mental health and well-being.
Well, I'm a GP. I've been GP in Gib for 38 years, and I've founded GibSams with Mary Lou, and I'm the chair of Clubhouse Gibraltar. I also do various things on committees on mental health in Gibraltar. So I'm a GP with an interest in mental health.
And how difficult has this pandemic been for, what pressure has it exerted on our mental health?
It's affecting everybody, especially obviously people who already have anxiety problems or mental health problems. But what's becoming clear is that everyone who's thought themselves to be healthy before have been affected in some way, and they're experiencing symptoms they've never had before, like insomnia, like dreaming, like depression, like anxiety. And of course, they're experiencing real loss. There's a danger to losing loved ones. There's a fear of loss and a real loss in incomes and job security. And so there's a loss in education. So kids have missed 6 months of school. So everybody's suffering. Everybody's suffered. But we're a team. We're a community, and we're all supporting each other. And it's amazing to see how many people have come forward to support the government, to support the health service, and support those people who've been locked up at home. So there's an awful lot of good that's come out of this crisis. A lot of resilience and resourcefulness has come to the fore, and we've got to harvest that and make it help us carry on into the future and make a better community than was there before.
So you've taken the challenge, the challenges that COVID presents us as a pandemic, and turned it and said that there are opportunities. And I see you smiling there, Kerstin.
Yes, yeah, I very much agree with that, because I think it's been a real challenge to everyone. And I particularly obviously saw it with businesses, the challenge to having to adapt rapidly. I mean, from one day to the next or 1 week to the next, and ensuring that the business could still function. And also, more importantly, that people are okay, because that change brought up so many other issues: childcare, working from the kitchen table, perhaps two parents working from the kitchen table whilst also homeschooling your children. And there were loads of challenges. And what I saw was people really coming together, businesses really stepping up and supporting their people. Some of the businesses I work with in Gibraltar, I mean, it's been incredible to see. They have virtual coffee breaks, they have team meetings, they make sure they stay in contact. They've gone above and beyond to make sure they would set people up at home with screens and comfortable chairs, etc. And I think also as a community, people have really pulled together. And to me, the pandemic, as terrible as the situation is, it has really highlighted our capacity capacity for being resourceful, for being resilient, and more importantly, to be incredibly adaptable. So, you know, it's just really highlighted what we're capable of.
So if we think of the workplace, then you've talked about it a bit there, but like most aspects of our life, there has been very significant change. A lot of businesses, private businesses that are selling services and are not sort of public facing, have completely changed from being almost entirely based in the office to working almost entirely from home, and continue to do that. This isn't just during lockdown. There are a lot of large businesses that have continued to allow their employees to work exclusively from home.
Yes, absolutely. I think, and some of them are also doing a 50-50. And it's really interesting that initially, and this is obviously generalizing, but the large majority of people that I would speak to would really welcomed working from home, you know, having that comfort, especially with what was going on. But as the situation continued and people started to go back to the office, perhaps 50-50 or occasionally, and also people that haven't, it really highlighted to them that they actually really enjoy going to the office and the value that provides them with that personal connection, the learning, the development they get from that. And again, it's opened up that possibility that perhaps there is a happy medium, there's a balance to be had that really allows flexibility, which has a big impact on people's lifestyle and well-being.
I think there's an analogy there, Dr. Beguelin, with healthcare and the fact that there is a continuation of service now for people who really need to see a doctor, to quote the health minister. But I think the model has changed. There's a lot more happening via telephone consultations now, insofar as the GHA and the primary care centre is concerned. And there's something that isn't. There are advantages to that and there are disadvantages to that, and there are people for whom that is a welcome change, and there are people for whom it just isn't quite the same, right?
Yes, I think there are pros and cons for everything. We're all, not just in medicine, but in all, as Kerstin was saying, in all aspects, we're all adapting to this by using more virtual interface with our clients, with our patients and our clients. And that a lot of that will stay, and a lot of that is new learning experience. There are a lot of people who've never used the internet, who've never Zoomed, who've never contacted people on the other side of the planet even, are doing so now, much more so now, and that will never go. The world will not be the same, and we've advanced in leaps and bounds as to using the internet properly to reduce travel, reduce air miles, reduce pollution. You know, that you don't really need to get on a jet and meet somewhere exotic. You can have a really good discussion online. But with medicine, it's unfortunately there are lots of things that you can only do in person, and we need to examine the patient, and we need to touch the patient, and so it's coming back. I know that in UK they're urging GPs to, encouraging them to do, because they find it so efficient to see patients much more quickly and more efficiently virtually, but there's a need, and a lot of unfortunate collateral damage has happened as well, not just in business and in the economy, but in the health of the nation. So the health of nations, because a lot of lumps and bumps have been left longer. The people attending with unexplained chest pain has gone down by half in UK. So we're missing a lot of stuff, and there's going to be a lot of collateral damage, which is a shame. But we don't know. We're going to learn. We're learning still now. We still don't know what the right strategy is.
It's not the first health pandemic to grip the world, but it is the first for our generation to be so widespread. And there is no rule book, I suppose. There's we can't check, what the best way to respond to changes are. And I suppose the scientific and medical knowledge around COVID-19 is progressing all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. Even the tests that we're doing, there are so many different tests, and they all have different specificity and a different so some are more reliable than others, as we notice with the visiting football team. No, we've got all negative and then all positive. It's just got to do with how sensitivity of the test and then the specificity of the test. There's a lot of doubt about that because we're looking at a fragment of the viral RNA, and that fragment is present in other coronaviruses. So there's a lot of room for error, and we're learning. But we've got to find something that we can do en masse. We're talking about millions of tests a day to make things safe for
worldwide,
the children,
sure, yeah.
worldwide. So, of course, there are very much more accurate tests, but they're impossible to
do that quickly
to the world. And then the vaccines. We're putting a lot of faith in the vaccines when they come, but they will be an incomplete answer. They're not going to be the answer.
No.
And we're learning. And if you ask the epidemiologists, they'd say different things, but they'd all say, come back and ask me when it's over, and then I'll tell you what the right strategy is. You cannot predict what's going to happen. This is a coronavirus, it's not a flu. But going back to how we're doing, I think that the health service will probably continue to use a lot more virtual contact. I think it's great if people don't have to queue up in person to get their certificates and their repeat prescriptions and their routine appointments, and it would be a benefit, and people will get more attention that need that human to human contact.
But in respect of mental health care in particular, you said that people who already had mental health problems will be feeling, on average, that little bit more pressured, more anxious, more stressed, less well, as a result of all of the changes brought about by COVID-19.
Yes, I'm afraid so. That's true. If you already have a mental health problem and you're put under severe stress of whatever sort, your mental health problems will get worse, and that has happened.
So we need to talk about coping strategies at some point. Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah. No, I was just going to say that the two main, I work with Childline too, but Clubhouse adapted very well. We stopped having face-to-face contact, and immediately we started a daily magazine, which is great, which everyone could contribute to. And we had 4 Zoom meetings a day, which, our members, we had outreach, so that the staff were in and calling all our members, so they all felt supported. So it really worked really well. And in GibSams, we introduced a chat line. So people would be surrounded by the family. They might not be able to talk on the phone. So the chat line came at a really good time.
So
that wasn't planned.
So that's typing rather than speaking on the phone.
So you go to the GibSams website and there's a chat button, and you can chat rather than speak. Of course, you can ring 116123 from 6 to 9. It's the same time. It's the same availability of the service, and it's the same thing, but it's just on chat.
Well, Kerstin painted a bit of a picture before, which might speak to the necessity of that chat service for somebody who's feeling particularly low. The scenario in which you have 2 parents working from home while also trying to do some of the schooling of their child. There have been a lot of changes at home, and there have been family pressures. And there are people then contacting GibSams to talk, and maybe it's a good point to just tell us about the basic model that GibSams operates and how important it is to talk.
Well, the vision of and the mission of GibSams is to reduce the number of suicides in our society. But at the same time, before people get to the point where they're considering taking their life, they become distressed, and it's a spectrum, and we are there to listen when you are distressed and there's no one else to talk to. So it's like a distress and suicide helpline. That's the shortest definition, and that's we love what we do, and no one else does it, because we don't give advice. We're not therapists, we're not psychologists, we're not doctors. Well, I am, but I have to put a different hat on, and we just listen, and it's something that people really need. When you're in distress and there's no one listening to you, and you can't tell maybe the person you love because it's a hurtful thing you want to talk about, you can talk to anonymously, confidentially, to a person who's trained to listen, and will not give advice, will not judge, and will just help you to unload and see things again in a new light, just by unloading with a confidential stranger. It's really amazing. And we're really happy that we've been working with Kerstin last year, and she's helping us again this year. She's got these wonderful skills at encouraging businesses and corporations to look after the mental health of their employees. And it was really successful last year. We presented these prizes for corporate well-being recognition awards, and they were really proud to have these awards. And this year we've invited businesses in Gibraltar to present their case, and Kerstin's going to adjudicate. And we've got some new awards, haven't we?
We do. We have now for the companies that have applied last year, they can apply again to really demonstrate that they are maintaining their well-being strategy and support for people, and also continuing to develop it.
It's something that you have to keep on topping up all the time, right?
Absolutely. You just have to keep reassessing, because the situation changes, as we've seen this year. People's lives change, so different things might be more appropriate. And so those companies can apply for the Wellbeing Star Award, and so every year they apply, they get another star, and they can accumulate them and really demonstrate, the care they take of their people.
So, as with all medicine, Dr. Beguelin, prevention is obviously the #1 goal. And maybe we can talk a little bit more about the sort of things that employers can do to make sure that their workers and staff are feeling as good as possible. Maybe we can do that in just a few moments, but Dr. Beguelin talked about the ultimate goal of GibSams being to prevent suicides, and there was a really moving testimony earlier this week by a serving police officer by the name of Tony Gall, who appeared on the sofa on City Pulse, and really opened up his heart and shared his story with us. And we're going to bring you a very short extract from that powerful, moving interview.
I naturally am a very positive person. I naturally have taken the negatives and made them into a positive, but then I've had them very dark patches where I'm either very, very positive and upbeat or extremely low. And them extremely low periods were because I wasn't listening. Well, I was listening, but I wasn't acting upon it. So during all of this period and before COVID, I knew I needed help, because the feeling of being worthless become to such a head that I thought it's time to call it a day. I walked to the top of the rock and decided that was it. I'm gonna kill myself. And so in that moment, I was quite clear that I was done. So I was literally, we're talking seconds away from jumping off the rock. And the phone rang. So I had my phone with me, the phone rang, and this gentleman there rang me. And whilst he didn't know in that moment what I was doing, he knew that certainly there's something not right. They've been there for me and put their arms around me and listened to me. And that's really what I want to get out there to your viewers as well, is that, if that person talks, that's a big deal. Like, you have to listen. And listen they did. And they're part of the reason why they're sat on this sofa now, to show my, gratitude eternally for what they've done and what they still do as friends to me.
Tony Gall, who's a serving police officer, opening up on the sofa with Kevin Rees on City Pulse. You can catch the full interview on Sunday at 10 o'clock. It repeats. It's really it's very brave of him to open up and talk about his experiences, which sadly we all wish that everyone would feel valued and wouldn't reach those low ebbs, but it is a reality of life that people find themselves in situations like Tony's, and you want them to get in touch with you if they're feeling low.
Just talk to anyone. If you're feeling like that, you need to talk to someone. And he said the right thing. He said, you've got to drop everything and listen. When you see someone in distress, don't walk away. Go to them. You notice when people are distressed. And it is just a moment in time, and it passes. Suicide is a moment in time, and all you need is that phone call. Or that. How are you doing? Just that little, just an opportunity. Yes, I mean, GibSams is there. When people ring, we always ask them, you know, are you feeling suicidal? It's one of the things that we always try and do, because even if they want to give us some free furniture, we still have to ask them, because you never know. They've rung a suicide helpline. But no, we all have to do our part. I mean, it's a bit like the police can't do their job if we don't all keep our eyes open. GibSams can't save everyone, but we all can if we think about how important it is to listen. And now we're training, I won't say how many, because I don't know how many we'll get through. We've got a new troop of listener learning to become GibSam listeners. And it's really good, the response from the public. And they will learn not just to listen on the phone at GibSams or on the chat line, but they'll learn to listen to their children, to their husbands and wives. They'll learn a fantastic skill which we can all learn and we all benefit from. And at the crucial time, when there's a crunch coming, you could save someone from disaster or self-harm or making the wrong decision or feeling unsupported. We're only as strong, and GibSams is very much a support network where the person at the end of the phone is supported by the person beside him, by someone on the end of the line, by a whole team. We're like a big family, and that is the strength of GibSams. It's the support that's behind that listener. And yeah, we'll be teaching these guys, and I'm sure they're going to come good, and we're going to have a much stronger service very soon.
Kerstin, in respect of what Dr. Beguelin has said about the importance of listening and trying to understand what the other person is going through, that can be hard. If we take the example of a workplace, people wear masks. People can go to work and put on a brave face and get on with their 9-to-5 duties. And the employer might not necessarily know how low their worker is feeling. What strategies are there to try and be as tuned in as possible to the way that your colleagues and your employees are feeling?
Yeah, I mean, there are strategies, but I think it's important to also highlight that if it hasn't been picked up, you know, there is no guilt, there is no responsibility per se, because everyone does the best they can. But I think in response to what Dr. Beguelin was saying, giving someone your attention, listening, and giving someone your full attention is the biggest gift you can give to anyone. And it doesn't require a particular skill. It doesn't require an ability to be able to help them or to fix it or to sort them out, but to just be there and give someone their full attention. And I think when people show up at work and they are present, we tend to spot when our colleague there's just something. And there might not be something tangible or obvious, but we get that sense, and it's tuning into that and perhaps asking that question, how are you, in that way of not how are you, it's more of a how are you, how are things? Mm-hmm. So that can be so meaningful and powerful. You mean really someone.
Just giving them a bit of space to open up and offload if they need to?
Yeah. It might be taking them for a coffee. It might just be, you know, they might not open up, but knowing that someone is actually interested, someone's actually giving them attention and noticing them, that can make a huge difference too.
And if we go to advice for individuals, Dr. Beguelin, what sort of, I mean, we exercise is something which helps us to release endorphins.
Yes.
On whatever level of exercise you're capable of.
Exercise is good for everything, but especially for depression and anxiety. Exercise is I always prescribe exercise, and it helps everything. It helps diabetes, hypertension, obesity, but it also helps depression, and it also helps anxiety, and it helps all manner of mental health problems. yes, as you say, well, you might put it down to chemistry, but basically we're designed to move. We're not designed to sit in chairs or even sit at desks. We're designed to move and talk to each other and I suppose, run.
If you can, yeah.
If we can, yeah.
That feeling of running freely is something that's difficult to rival when your knees permit it. Dr. Beguelin, with that in mind, the importance of sort of exercise and also taking fresh air and sunshine while we can, I'm reminded that it's autumn now. We're moving away from the summer period when I assume, depression and anxiety generally would be less prominent. I don't know if that's a correct assumption, but seasonality would come into it a bit, and at least you've got the benefit of vitamin D. The winter months are ahead of us, and there'll be less sunshine, and potentially, depending on how well, I suppose, Gibraltar does with COVID-19 and is able to do, and how lucky we get, we've seen other cities facing further restrictions, and I suppose those can't be ruled out. What coping mechanisms can you talk about which people might still be able to practice should they find themselves spending longer at home? Exercise can still be undertaken, I suppose. What else springs to mind?
Well, I think that there's a whole variety of what people can do, and I think that the human connection, whether that's in person or virtual, is really important. Sunlight, healthy eating, exercise. But those are all sort of external things, and even though they're very important, if we sort of strip it back to the source, what's really important is your state of mind and what you're focusing on. And I think if we can focus on the things that feel good, focus on the things that are positive. So you mentioned exercise. When we exercise, we have a sense of achievement. So that ultimately is a positive feeling. So if we focus on the things that feel good, then it's not so difficult to figure out what of those things would be a good idea to do. They come fairly natural.
Listen to yourself.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and I said that we return to the corporate well-being program that GibSams is running. Do you want to remind our viewers, perhaps there are some company executives, directors listening, what sort of thing GibSams is looking to recognise?
Well, the possibilities of implementing a well-being strategy and policies is endless. Obviously, when there are policies, the best policies are the ones that are actually being embodied and that are being implemented. And we are looking at that. We really want to see that there's something implemented. So whether you have
something real, not just an idea.
Absolutely. So whether you have a policy that is, whatever it does, or whether there is no policy, but you have a really good way of connecting with your people and supporting them, it really depends on your business. There is no set criteria because there's large businesses, smaller businesses, and what the requirements are for the business and the people will be different. And so we really take that into consideration. But we want to see that the business sort of puts their people at the heart of what they're doing.
Okay, so in a very tiny nugget, Dr. Beguelin, what idea would you like our viewers to stay with at the end of tonight's discussion?
Well, one of the things we discussed earlier, I think we should bring forward, is that when you put on a mask, when you wash your hands, when you keep social distancing, think positive about it. I like to think I'm saving a life, and then it won't be so hard. So everything, whatever happens, I mean, it's very difficult to weather this changing restrictions, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And there's been changes in UK, and there's been changes in Madrid. But think about it in a positive way. Think about every time that you do something and follow the guidelines, you're going to be saving a life, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. Everyone is trying to keep safe and keep well, and we can make it as a team, because we are a team animal.
Okay, well, Dr. Beguelin and Kerstin Andlaw, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck with the GibSams initiative. Viewpoint will be back next week when we expect to bring you some powerful testimonies from people living with dementia. That's Viewpoint next Thursday at 9:30. For now, from the team, thanks a lot for watching and good night.